Hello friends, welcome. So in this session, we are going to discuss a few things network part today we are going to cover. Okay. So first of all, I would like to have a quick confirmation about my voice, like if I am audible to you. And once you give a quick confirmation, then we can move ahead. So you can type yes in case I am hearable to you. So okay, thank you. Okay, fine. So now let me start with. Okay, so fine. So first of all, welcome to all of you to this session. And today, like from today, we have started almost our lab parts, right? And now onwards, we will be going deep in each lab. And because this is the just starting today, so we will not be covering that much of in fact we will not be taking that much of time today, so we will try to wrap up this session as soon as possible, because I believe many of you have not already created your Azure account. So I request all of you to please create your account in case you have not already created. In case you have already consumed your free trials, you can go with pay as you go account, right? Only then you can benefit out of these sessions if you have your Azure account. All right, so that you can practice the things along with me, and because ultimately we need to reach our destination, that is like this one, right? So ultimately we are going to cover all these paths in these training sessions. First, our target would be this one, and after completing this one we will be completing this part. And then, sorry, the slide I had not updated, so please don't consider it. So this one, right? So we will be covering the in fact this part is right, but this part I have not updated. So here it would be like all the certifications which are relevant to data engineer path. All right, okay. So first of all, like in first phase, our target is this one only, right? So don't worry about that, because I just created this PPT in some urgency, and maybe that's why I not updated this. Anyways, so already the parts that we have covered in our last sessions are these ones, right? So these fundamental things we have covered, and they were almost theory. No practical was there, and most of them were theory only, right? And in today's session we are going to cover this part basically, right? Because Azure virtual network is a huge topic and it covers a lot of topics inside it, but we will not be going all through all of them, at least for today. In next session we are going to discuss them all in detail, but for today, because we have just started our practical sessions, so most of you, as I have already told, don't have accounts. Please create your account in case you don't have. So that's why we will be covering just today only subnets and virtual networks only, and from next session we will be speed up our journey of these trainings, right? All right. So first of all, like the thing that we are going to cover is like a virtual network. All right, so what exactly virtual network is, right? So as you might be aware, like in case of on premises, like, right, like on premises, so we have to go through many steps in case we have to create our network. Like first of all we have to install the hardware, right? Like switches, routers and all those things, and then we have to configure them, like maybe installation and all those things, right? Installation and configuration, basic configuration basically. And then we go for our main part, that is like creation of subnet or network. Like suppose we have to create a network and we have to define an IP range and all those parts, right? Creation of actual configuration, right? But that is for like on premises part, right? But in case of cloud, we don't have to go through step number one. We don't have to go through step number two, like installation of hardware, configuration of that hardware. We don't have to go all those things, but directly that the part that we do is creation of our network, right? Creation part. So directly we go to this part. That's the beauty of cloud actually, right? So now question is, what exactly virtual network is, right? So our virtual network is basically a logical separation, or a logical unit, or a logical space in Azure cloud. Suppose we have this cloud, Azure cloud, that is spread across the globe, right? But we are not concerned about all that. We are What we are concerned about is only a little bit of its part, right? Like this part. So we create a very little segment, very little logical segment out of this complete virtual network, out of this complete cloud, and that is totally dedicated to us, like our organization, right? So these vnets are linked to subscription basically, right? So like we have some limits how many vnets we can create in our subscription, right? So such kind of limitations are there, but don't worry about them. They are already so huge that you will not be reaching even half of them, right? So virtual network is basically a logical segment of our network inside the Azure network, right? So if we call it as, it is an Azure cloud, right? Out of this complete cloud, we have just a very small space of network in which we deploy our resources, right? So this network is called virtual network. It's a logical only, nothing we have to install like physically. We don't have to install any physical router or like that. It's all logical. Fine. So this is like what is virtual network. Now next is like, what exactly are the benefits of this virtual network, right? So what we can do with this virtual network? So first of all, we can create segmentation inside this segmentation. Like we can create subnets inside this, and we can create different virtual network in itself, right? So we can deploy resources across each subnets or vnets, and in this way we can segregate them. Like suppose we have some resources in virtual network 1, we have some resources in virtual network 2, right? And we can define different policies, we can define different routes and all those things. So they are totally different in itself, right? So they are totally different entities in itself, though they belong to same organization, right? Our organization, but still, if they are different, we can define different policies across them, we can define different routes across them. So in this way we can control how the resources in these vnets and subnets communicate with each other. Next one is, in the meanwhile, if you have any query, you can always ask me, and you can ask me the queries in case you have any. So I will be replying to you at the end of this session, right? So I can see Karthik is there. Karthik, in case you have any query, you can always ask, or what you can do is you can type your query at least, and we will, in last 15 minutes, we will try to resolve those queries. All right. So as I always tell, just be with me for next 3 months, and you will be covering all the architect and DevOps part, right? After 3 months, you will be an Azure expert, trust me. But the only thing is, you need to practice with me. You need to like study with me. You need to study all the notes which I will be providing now onwards, and you need to practice all the labs that we will be covering in these sessions. So today is the beginning, so we will not be going. In fact, we will not be covering so many things. But from next session, we are going to cover things in more details and in a more speed up way, basically, because we have to cover all these levels of Azure Architect path and as your DevOps path in next 3 months only. All right. So from next session, we will be going to speed up the things. All right. So next one is communication with internet, right? Communication with internet, or other peers or other resources in the same Vnet, or maybe different subnet, different Vnet, right? Or subnet, right? So by default, all the resources in the Vnet, they are able to communicate with each other. All right, and all the resources in the Vnet, they are able to communicate to internet by default, right? Like they can reach to internet by default. Fine. So in this way, all the resources in a Vnet, they are able to communicate to internet, and also they are able to communicate to all the resources within the same virtual network. All right. Third one is like what are the benefits of or what are the capabilities of virtual network, I will say. So first one is segmentation, like we can segment the resources um, logically, so that they may communicate to each other or they may not communicate. So it's all up to us. We can control all this communication through like that is the benefit, segmentation. Also we can control the communication, like whether they should communicate to each other or whether they should communicate to internet resources or not, or like that. Third one is like also we can communicate with on-premises resources, right? Suppose we have some resources or some virtual machines in cloud, right? Communication with on-premises, right? On-premises. So also we can communicate to on-premises resources, like we have something like a virtual network gateway, Vnet gateway we can say. So with the help of this resource, we can communicate with on-premises resources, and also we can communicate with the resources in other virtual networks, right? So like we can use a point-to-point VPN, or we can use point-to-site VPN, or we can use express routes. All right. So all these things we will discuss in detail, right, in our coming sessions. So this is just starting, so we are discussing just overview and theory part only. But from next session we will not be going through the theory part much, but we will be going through labs only from now next session onwards. All right. So next is like how we can like we can control the traffic. That is the best part that I will say. Like we can control all the communication. Like as I said, by default we are able to communicate to internet, to other resources. With the help of virtual network, we can control the traffic 100%. Right? It is not like that something is out of our reach or out of our control, nothing like that. So we can control the traffic at any point of time, right, in any way, right? Like we have options for defining routes, we have options for defining security groups, where we can control like which resource can communicate or which resource can send the traffic outside or inside, right? On which port, on from which IP. So everything we can control. All right. So this is like how our virtual networks work, and what are the capabilities of virtual networks, right? So let me discuss our next point, that is subnet. All right. So subnets are basically like you can say like suppose we have this Azure cloud, right? Out inside that we have our virtual network that is dedicated for our organization, right? And inside that we have our subnets, like further segmentation of our network. All right. Suppose we have some range over here, like maybe suppose 10, 0, point 0, point maybe 1, or maybe like 0, let me say, and 16. Suppose we have a range that we have defined to our whole virtual networks. So what we can do is we can define, or we can segment these this range further in subnets. Like maybe we can define, like we have first subnet that is like slash 18, or maybe like next subnet that is like 10.64.0.0/18. So like this we can define so many subnets over there, and we can control like what traffic should go outside of these subnets, and how these subnets are going to communicate with each other. So maybe as we are discussing theory, so you will not be getting so many things inside you, but trust me, once we are going through practicals from next session, you will be getting a lot of things, right? So you will remember all the things. But again, I am requesting you, if you don't have any Azure account, please do subscribe an Azure account, whether it is free or pay as you go. And trust me, even if you go for pay as you go account, you are not going to consume a huge money if you use the resource wisely, right? So, and in fact, 20% of resources you can use without any cost, like maybe vnets, right? Like network part, almost you can use like maybe vnets, subnets, security groups, right? Security groups, resource groups, roles. So, and many more things are there which you can use free. Like these things are free, even if you go for pay as you go account, right? And like you get some VMs as well, which are free for whole year, right? So you can use them, because we get so many benefits in each subscription. Like first, those free resources are consumed, and once we go beyond the limit of those free resource, only then we are charged. But these things are always free. All right. So even if you create pay as you go account, trust me, if you practice all the labs of this complete architect path, still you will not be able to consume more than 2000 rupees. If you make full practice, trust me. So, but you have to you have to use the resources wisely. Like once you practice, immediately remove them. Don't keep them created. And obviously there is no use of keeping the resources on. Like suppose you have created a virtual machine, heavy virtual machine, and maybe for 2 or 3 hours you will be spending just 4 or 5 rupees only, right? And if you remove the machine after your labs, it will not be charging you much, just 4 or 5 rupees, nothing. And in this 4 and 5 rupees you can practice a lot. So like this, you can go for pay as you go account, in case you don't have any option for free account. All right. So this is like what are subnets. And one more thing about subnet is, like suppose we have created a virtual network. Inside that we have defined some subnets. All right. So out of these subnets, what we have some key terms basically, right? So let me define them. So if I remove this blackboard, and not blackboard, in fact whiteboard, sorry. So some key points are, like first 5 IPs of each subnet are reserved, right? So Azure reserve them for its own purpose. Like one IP is basically becomes gateway, right? Gateway address, and two are reserved for like broadcast address, and two more are reserved. So in this way, 5 IPs are unusable in each subnet. All right. So please always take care of this thing. Second thing is, basically, like you must have heard public subnets or private subnets, like that, right? So basically, private and public subnets are nothing, but only thing is like public subnet is able to communicate with internet, right? Like it has routes that make the traffic go to internet, right? But private subnet doesn't have route. By default, every like each subnet has a route to internet. But in private subnet, what we do is basically we remove the, or we modify the, or we create a new route that overrides the default route, right? So it has route to internet, and private subnet doesn't have internet route. So that is the basic difference, and people remain confused in this very often. I have seen this. So in private subnet, we don't have internet route, but in public subnet, we have internet route. So basically, the basic funda, or the basic basic purpose of defining these subnets are like which one is public, which one is private. So normally what we do is we keep all the resources which need to communicate with the internet. We keep all those resources in our public subnet, right? And all the resources which never need to communicate to internet, they only need to communicate internally, we keep those resources in our private subnet. All right. So next is like let me see a quick lab, like at least we can start the things today about labs, right? From next session we are going to cover more things in these labs and more topics in these labs. All right. So okay, so what we are going to do today is we will be creating one okay, so okay, so we are going to create one virtual network, right? uh, Let me give it name like GCE. GCE means go cloud easily. GCE Vnet 1. All right. So we can give this name, and our IP range for this network would be maybe like 10.0.0.0/16. All right. So please remember this. And also let me give you one tip. So whenever you are working with Azure or any cloud or any thing, maybe on premises, right? It's a like general practice. It's a thumb rule. So whenever you are designing something, so please ensure you make the documentation for that, right? So benefit of this is like first we create those things in our mind, right? Second, when we design those things on documents like I am designing over here, right? So documentation, right? And third thing is when we actually do those things in actual environment or maybe in test environment, right? When we are actually doing those things in environment, right? So in this way we repeat the same things three times: first, two, and three. So if we are repeating something for three times, so chances of errors are very, very less. That's the whole purpose basically of documentation. And once you have document in front of you, you are like chances of errors are very, very less. All right. So and things become fast, like because you have something already in front of you, you are just creating those things just by seeing all these details, right? You don't have to decide like IP range, don't have to decide on the spot. You will not be confused about like what actually name I need to give to this network. So this is just an example, but you can apply this policy or you can apply this best practice in in each and every field, right? Whatever field you have, like maybe software or network or whatever it is. So whenever you are creating something or designing something, please ensure you have documented all those things, right? So inside this virtual network we are going to create two subnets, right? So first one is like we are going to name like uh, maybe like GCE again, GCE public subnet 1. All right. And IP range would be like 10.0.0.0 slash 18 maybe, right? And second subnet that we are going to create is GCE hyphen private. So PRIV means private, and private subnet 1. All right. And like a range for this would be uh, 10.0.64.0.18. All right. So in this way, we are going to define one virtual network, and inside that we are going to create two subnets, and our complete trainings would be going around these this network only, right? So this is the first step of our labs. Like we have created the network for all the labs which we are going to complete in our further sessions. So let me move to actual part where we are going to create this thing. So let's move. And you I believe you can see like my uh, this is my tenant or Azure account, right? So this is a pay as you go account, and in case now what we need to do is, I hope you can see my screen, right? So what we are going to do is like as we discussed, we are going to create one resource over here, and before that we are going to create one resource group actually. So this is the best practice. Like even like if you are also doing some labs or your testing work, what you can do is always create a resource group so that you can know like what exactly you have created, and create all the resources in that resource group, right? And once you are done with all your labs, just remove that resource group. That's it. So in this way you can ensure that whatever you have created, you also have removed that, so that you may not be charged anything extra. So what we are going to do is like we are going to name this resource group as GCE hyphen resource group 1. All right. And we are going to create this resource group in maybe US East region. Next is we are going to define some tags maybe. So name is like trainings. All right. So we have defined one tag, and let me create it. So our validation is passed. So this is very necessary. Once we are creating some resources, our validation should pass. This validation is nothing but Azure ensures that all the parameters are defined in the desired way, and all the required information has been submitted, right? Once it is passed, we can create it, and it takes some time. So let me wait for it. And it is almost ready, and we can go to resource. So here we have this resource group, and we can see different things about this resource group like activity log, IAM tags, and all those things. But this in this lab we are not going to discuss all these things. We will have a different session for this, and as I told you, from next session we are going to cover a lot in our labs. So please come prepared, please come with your account. In case it is not like that, you need to follow me in this session only, right? Like what I am doing, you're also doing parallelly. It is not like that. But main thing is like suppose we have covered today Vnet and subnets. So you also need to practice the same in your lab, in your account, right? So we have covered this topic in our sessions. You also need to ensure that you have covered those topics in your private practice. All right. And in case you have any question, any doubt, any query, you can always ask me, right? If we have covered VNet and subnet in our sessions, please ensure you also have covered those topics in your like routine. All right. So that is the purpose, because in next 3 months we are going to cover all the topics of architect and DevOps path. Parallelly, you also need to ensure that you also have covered those things with me. I hope you understand the point. right? So today we are covering these topics. You also need to ensure you also need to practice more, and you also need to read more, so that you can ensure that you are aware about all the terms, all the things about Vnet and Subnet, right? We have If we have completed this topic in our sessions, you also need to ensure that you are fully aware about these topics. Don't be limited to this session only. It's a kind of like what you call is signal, we have covered this, so you also need to be covered this. So in this way we are going to cover, and it's a path, basically it's a journey, so you need to follow with me. All right. So we have created this resource group. Now what we need to do is we need to create one virtual network. All right. So as you can see, already we have designed this thing in our PPT part, like here. So first part is like we need to define a name like GCE hyphen VNet 1, and we need and our CIDR classless inter-domain routing address should be like 10.0.0.0. and slash 16, right? So let me go to browser again, and let me see. So here we can search like maybe VNet. So basically we have two ways like how we can find the resource that we need to create. Like from here we can search, or we can go to uh, each category, and from that category we can go to individual component or resource, right? Like here networking path, and just a second. Application gateway we can create over here. I think it is not listed over there. Actually it's okay, anyways. So maybe this is in some different category. Anyways, we can search for that later on, but right now our purpose is just to create virtual network. So we can go in this way. All right. And we can create it. So as you can see, our subscription is this one, and our resource group is GCE-RG1, and name of this subnet, or virtual network we are going to give is GCE-VNet1. All right, as we have already decided this name, and location is going to be East US. Next is IP range we have to define. So what we are going to define is 10.0.0 and .0 and slash 16. Actually I have this subnet, this virtual network already created. So let me search where I have created this virtual network. So in this way, like this is the way like how you can troubleshoot the things as well. We can use one network address only one time with one virtual network in our subscription. All right. So maybe I have used this network range somewhere. So let me find it where I have used it. So maybe this one. If I see this GCE VNet 1, okay, so maybe somebody in some other group I have used it, no issue. So what we can do is basically we can define some other things, maybe VNet, like just we created GCE RG1, this one we created just now, and Inside this Vnet GCE hyphen Vnet 1, and here what we can do is East US I can define, and then I can use this IP address range. So here basically like I don't know in which network I have used this range. All right, so in this way I can use this, and okay, so I'm using this one now. It is allowing me, right? Maybe because I recently created I recently removed the resource, that's why it was not allowing me. It was taking some time to replicate. Anyways, so this time it is allowing me, and by default it tried to consume all the address space in one default subnet, but we need not to go with it. We can remove this, and what we can do is we can create our own subnets, right? As we define its name, like GCE hyphen public subnet 1, right? And address that we defined for this was 10.0.0, something like this. All right, and we have some more parts here, like we can create endpoints, service endpoints, net gateways. So we are not going to cover these things in this session, but yes, we will be covering all these things in detail in our coming sessions. All right, add, and we are going to create one more subnet, that is GCE hyphen private subnet 1. All right, and we are going to use space. And if we are trying to copy paste like older one, so it is giving me error, like the subnet address prefix overlaps with this one, which we have already defined in our previous subnet, right? So that's the benefit of designing things beforehand, like, so 64, right? Now it is taking it happily. And here as well, as you can see, these are the IP addresses like 16379 which are available, plus 5 Azure reserved addresses, means 5 addresses we cannot use out of this complete range of IP addresses. All right, so if we add this, so now we have defined, like, I need to create one virtual network with these subnets and with this subnet address range. All right, and we can do it like review and create. Though we have some more options like security, we can check for these options, but for now we are going with default options like disable. But yes, we are going to discuss all these things, like what is base and host actually, what is DDoS protection, and what is firewall. So all these things we are going to cover in our coming sessions, so don't worry about that. Next thing is like tags. We can use some tags, like let we use our already existing tags, like name is training, and now we can do is review and create. So now our base is ready for our further training sessions, like we will be using this virtual network for all our trainings, and this, and we will be creating our all the resources in our this resource group in this region. And this is the basically details of network that we are going to use in our coming sessions. So with this, with these things, we are going to wrap up our session. So like from coming sessions, each of our session would be like more than 1 hour basically. So we are going to increase the time, only then we can cover our all the training sessions or all the syllabus of all the paths. So here it is succeed, and as you can see, we have this virtual network ready. Like in this resource group, we have this GCE-Vnet subnet. Vnet, the name of this virtual network is, and inside this we have two virtual networks. Sorry, two subnets, right? And you can see all these things. In case we need to check one any particular subnet, we can check it details. Like currently it doesn't have any net gateway, it doesn't have any security group, it doesn't have any route table, right? So by default it is having all the routes what is defined by default, right? So in this way, we can see creating a virtual network and its subnets, it is very easy job, right? And this is the very first step that we have to complete before doing anything in our Azure cloud, right? All right. So in next session we are going to discuss about uh, security groups, routes, and how we can define different IP schema, IP addressing, right? And many more things we are going to cover, and then we will be covering after that load balancers and our uh, all the different things we are going to cover, right? So most probably in coming session we will be completing our network part. So please don't miss that, and even if you miss that, please make sure you see the recordings. All right. So most probably we will be having our coming session on Sunday, so please ensure that you attend the session or you see the recording, because we are going to cover the complete network part in our coming session, all the concepts. And then from next session we'll be diving into different topic. All right. And also note one thing, I will be sharing the tutorial path in subscription from tomorrow. All right, please don't miss to see that. And what my plan now is, you need to cover theory part using the tutorial, and labs we will be covering in our session part. All right, so it's a kind of double engine journey. Like theory part you will be covering by yourself, practicals you will be covering in sessions. So in this way we can double the speed of covering these sessions. Anyways, so any question do you have till this time? Any question you can ask me, like any doubt or any query. Okay, yeah, Karthik. Sure, sir. I have created free trial account and I am watching the videos from starting, maintaining a separate notes as well. Uh, Internet routes for any subnet. Yeah, Karthik. So, and where do we define? Yeah, Karthik, we will see all these things in detail in our coming session. But for now, let me just tell you, like actually we don't remove, and like we have some default routes. All right, we don't define, we don't remove any routes. So if I show you like route table, like we have route tables, right? So by default when we create a when we create a route table, we have some default routes, and even if we don't create this route table, still we have some default routes that are created along with when we create a subnet, right? So in next session I will show you, like when we are covering the route table part completely, so I will show you. But for now, what you can understand is like um, by default the routes which are created are like they allow all the traffic to our internet. Let me just give you some show you something here. PPT part. So by default, uh, routes are created for like internet, right? Like all the traffic, like all the host or all the resources which are created in a vnet, they are able to reach internet by default, right? So that is the default route. These are basically default routes. Second is, each resource in a virtual network, they are able to communicate each other, right? Each other. So these are two different these are at least these two routes are defined when we create any subnet, right? In case we have to define any private subnet, what we have to do is we cannot remove this default route, that is like routing the traffic to uh, internet. But what we can do is we can create a different route with high priority, right? So once like when routes are evaluated, so suppose we have a vnet, sorry, we have a vm, right? It is attached. Okay, let me do one thing, let me clear this screen first. All right. So suppose I have a vm1 that is inside the maybe public subnet, right? Public subnet. And on this public subnet I have or maybe like it's in private subnet. Let me just wait a second. Maybe it's in private subnet, right? By default this subnet has route like it can go to internet, it can go to each machine of this subnet, or each machine of subnets of this particular virtual network, right? So these are default routes, but what we want is we don't want this machine to communicate with internet we don't want to allow. So what we can do is we can define some more routes over here, like the with each subnet there is one default route table that is attached, which defines like how traffic can move outside or inside the subnet, right? So what we can, it has some routes basically, like these are the routes. So what we can do is we cannot remove them, but we can create some extra routes which define like whatever the traffic is going to dot zero dot zero dot zero slash zero, like this. So whatever, like this represents the internet, like any, it represent any, right? So whatever the traffic that is going to this route, just deny this traffic, right? And once like whenever there is a request from any resource inside the subnet, it evaluates all the routes inside the route table until unless it is meeting the address which is it need to go, which the resource is for destination. Once it see any rule that defines something about the destination IP, then it doesn't further then it doesn't evaluate further routes. It find the address in any route, it take action based on that route definition, and it deal the traffic accordingly. So it, if it will get a route that will say like whatever the traffic that is destined for this internet address, just drop that traffic, right? So it will drop the traffic and it will not be evaluating any further rule, right? So because this is like a theoretical part, so in next session we will be covering all these things in practical way. So then you will be having much more idea about how things work actually, right? So we will discuss all these things in detail in our coming session. And because this session was meant for only 1 hour, so I don't want to extend this actually. But in from next session, we will be covering the things in very well detail. So I'm sure you will be getting a lot of value out of these sessions. So stay tuned. And also, like, I would say one thing. Sorry, because you have created already free trial account, what you can do is try to practice the things. Yeah. So what you can do is try to practice the things maybe by your own. Like as I told you in beginning only, we have to complete the like path of architect in next 3 months maximum. So I'm like I'm a I'm a you can see I'm kind of a signal light, right? Like you can see what you call is exact term I don't know, um, lighthouse kind of thing. Like in early times when travelers used to travel in sea, they used to have a lighthouse kind of thing which they can see from very distant place, right? And accordingly they can decide the direction even in nights, right? In the same way, treat me or treat these sessions as a lighthouse. So just make one thing in mind, like we need to complete path in next 3 months. So don't be totally dependent on these sessions. If you have time, if you have will to work hard, just go extra than me as well, right? Like today we have covered vnets and subnets. Don't be limited to the things that I had told in this session. All right, just try to cover more and more things about these things, right? And maybe in maybe next session we will be covering like different things like security groups, route tables, and routes actually, and different things we will be covering. So make sure you already you cover those things after the session. So my whole point is, don't be limited to the knowledge which I am sharing in these sessions. Try to explore more and more things. So after this session, you need to ensure that anybody can ask me any question about VNet and subnets. I'm ready for it. That will be the spirit basically. Only then you can benefit out of these sessions fully. All right, because as I told you in first session as well, like sometimes what we do is we make a resolution to ourselves, like okay, I will master Azure, right? But what we do is normally we just cover few topics, we start for 1 or 2 days and then we lose the interest, right? So you can take these sessions as a lighthouse, as a mentor. Like I need to follow these trainings and in next 3 months I need to master Azure. All right, only then with such a willpower you can get benefit out of these things. Anyways, Karthik, thank you so much for being with me. And don't be limited to these trainings only. Collect extra knowledge, and when you try to cover extra things you get extra queries as well. So I'm always here to help you, like whatever query you have, don't hesitate, don't afraid, just ask me anything. I will be more than happy to help you. All right, thank you, see you next session. And soon, maybe in next 2 or 3 days I will be announcing that, and then we will be having the session. Thank you so much for watching this, and have a good day and happy learning. Thank you. And finally, I forgot to like any query you have, just in 2 minutes, let me try to answer that. We have 6 more minutes. So any query, in case you have any query. And one more thing, like I'm also planning to planning for team sessions where you can interact where with voice. So soon we will be planning that, and I will be announcing that. So in case you have any query about this, uh, you can always ask, and we have groups that you can see in the description. You can join them and you can ask things anytime through any mode, whether it's Telegram group or Facebook group or maybe WhatsApp or whatever. Any query, anytime, just ask me, right? Okay, thank you all uh, for this for your time for watching this session. See you next session. Thank you.